You can clap for him. That was good. Seems to be a running theme, but as last week, though, for a very different reason, parental advisory warning, if you have children who are old enough to understand what I'm saying right now, but young enough they don't want them to hear what I'm saying because it's about current events, now is a good time to exit. Just saying. It starts out innocently. Raise your hand. You don't know what I'm going to do. Raise your hand if you like celery. Really? Okay, well, I'm not talking about any of you then. For the rest of us, raise your hand if you dislike celery. Raise your hand if you strongly dislike celery. Raise your hand if you hate celery. We know what's up. I think everybody has a vegetable of some sort that they cannot stand. Some kind of vegetable that they hate. Like, raise your hand if he hates lots of vegetables. He's never had a vegetable in his life. He's 4 months old. Raise your hand if you hate, what's good? Cabbage. People hate cabbage. Raise your hand if you hate okra. Yeah. What, did I miss? Did anyone have something that I didn't say that they hate, some vegetable? Tomatoes? You got to shout it. He hates tomatoes. Tomatoes, I hear like beans, Brussels sprouts. I love Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts, people hate Brussels sprouts. I think everyone's got some, right? Everyone has a vegetable that they hate, right? Almost everybody has a vegetable that they hate. You're killing me, dude. It rolls off the tongue so easily for most of us. Just to say like, oh, that vegetable, I hate it. Especially if it's celery. But we don't actually mean it, We don't actually mean when we say, I hate it. Like, you don't like it. You could, really not like it. I really don't like celery. I really don't like Brussels sprouts or tomatoes or whatever it is. But really, really not liking a vegetable isn't the same as hating it. Because hate, actually, hate implies something a lot deeper than just vegetables. Hate goes beyond dislike or even strong dislike. Hate is the furthest, you can feel. If there's a spectrum, right, then, love is right here, love. And then there's you strongly like something, and then you kind of like something, and you're neutral. You kind of dislike it, you really dislike it, you hate it. Hate is all the way over there, the furthest away, in direct opposition to love, sort of like a counterbalance. Love and hate, though, are a little bit similar. They're both a little irrational. Love, real love, not like I love ice cream, but I love my son, I love my husband. For real love, you'd do anything for that person. You'd give all of yourself that there is to give. You'd self-sacrifice without a thought for love. Hate, as the counterbalance, is similar. You would give anything to take that thing down that you hate, to make it go away, to get rid of it forever, because you hate it. Love and hate, both, have the power to destroy. In love, though, and hear me out here, it's kind of a positive thing. In love, when you love someone, when you want to love someone, you have to kind of tear down those walls you put up around your heart to keep them out, to keep your heart safe so you don't get a broken heart. You have to let someone in. So you have to let those walls down. It's a positive thing. It's a good thing. Hate also has the power to destroy, but in this case, it's negative. And I don't need to stand here and list examples for you of the negative power of destruction of hate, because you're filling it in your mind right now. There's a lot of examples of the negative power, the destructive negative power of hate. Saturday night begins the commemoration of the destruction of the first and second temples, Tisha B'Av. We call it a holiday, though, as was rightly pointed out to me earlier. It's not really a holiday in the sense that we have fun or that we're happy. We're not happy on Tisha B'Av, because we're remembering these horrible things that happened to us as a people a long time ago. The temples were destroyed. And I can't really explain it very well for you, because we say temple now and we think synagogue. Well, it's not really a synagogue. And I can't draw an equivalent for you because we don't have temples anymore. But imagine if there were no more synagogues, no more prayer books, no more humashim, no more Passover seders, there's nothing to do to make you feel Jewish. anymore. There's no ways to do Jewish. It was just all gone. The destruction of the temple both times destroyed all the fundamental ways of being Jewish, of doing Jewish, of feeling Jewish. Can you imagine how lost all those Jews felt, the ones who survived the sacking of our city? They faced a world that was fundamentally different, and they had to practice a fundamentally different kind of Judaism. They didn't have it yet. Imagine how many Jews we lost in that tumult. Jews who went away, who joined other religions, who just got lost in the cracks. Imagine how many souls we lost in that lost time of the destruction of the temples. And the rabbis, because they're the ones who kind of came through that period, they wrote about it, actually. That's how we know how they felt. And they wrote how disorienting it was, and how they felt horror, and they felt worry, and they felt fear, and they felt anger. And they asked themselves, looking around the ruins of the temples, what caused this? What happened? Why did this happen? Factually, it was the Romans. I'm not pointing fingers, but I'm saying it was the Romans. The Romans did it. They sacked the temples. If you go to see the Kotel, the egalitarian Kotel, there's like all the stones at the bottom. They literally went up there and pushed the stones over from the temple, and they're still on the ground today. They're very big and heavy. So it was the Romans, right? Romans, it was the Romans. It's not what the rabbis say. The rabbis say this destruction was caused by sinat chinam, which is a very, very special kind of hatred. Hatred. But it was the Romans. I mean, they definitely hated us. They murdered our people, and they put us in chains and destroyed our religion, or they tried to. It was definitely the Romans. Nope. It was hatred. Baseless hatred. And it's not the hatred of the Romans, they say. It was the hatred between Jews. That's why this calamity has befallen us, said the rabbis. That's why Judaism and Jewish peoplehood and Jewish expression as we know it is gone. That's why we've suffered these losses. It was hatred between Jews. And that's why it's happened more than once. I'm not going to talk right now about the racist, xenophobic ranting of the El Paso shooter who literally told authorities that he hated Mexicans and he was targeting Mexicans. I'm not going to talk to you about the Pittsburgh shooter at the Tree of Life Synagogue, who surely hated Jews because he shouted, "All Jews must die," as he shot Jews who were praying in their synagogue. I want to talk about hate. Hate, which, as we know, is the counterbalance to love. It's just as irrational and often just as powerful as what it can make happen in the world. I was actually very scared to give this Devar Torah, even though I truly believe it is apolitical. And I ran it by many, many people, which is not something I do, because I was and am nervous and a little bit scared, which I'm not usually before I give a Devar Torah. And the thing that I asked everybody I ran this by was, what if everybody hates me? What if they hate me? But I think what I really meant to say was, what if they stop seeing me? What if they stop being able to hear me? Because that's what happens when you hate. You stop seeing the other person as a person. You cease being able to hear them, to listen to them, to empathize with them. They're not your friend, Alex. They're, that Fox News watching, climate hating Republican. They're not your cousin, Jesse. Oh, Jesse. They're, that MSNBC watching, tree hugging Democrat. Because at that point, every conversation is no longer a conversation. It's just shouting. Shouting at each other, shouting past each other. And that's what we're doing now, actually. We're all just shouting and shouting and shouting at each other. We spend all of our time yelling at each other or ignoring each other. And there are some really important things happening right now, some really serious things happening right now. We need to not be shouting, but we are. And there's some irony. And you're going to laugh or cry when I tell you this. Pew Research 2017 shows that the majority of Americans agree on some very broad issues relating to things like guns. The majority of Americans are in favor of universal background checks. The majority of Americans are in favor of banning assault-style weapons. The majority of Americans are in favor of banning high-capacity magazines. That's the majority of Americans. That means Republicans and Democrats. That means gun owners and non-gun owners. Most of us agree. We agree, and we don't agree on anything. We're like Jews, us Americans. We're American Jews, so we kind of get it doubly, but we agree, everyone. We agree on these things, on this thing. And if the majority of us agree on keeping guns out of the hands of people who have already spent their lives beating their wives or children, if the majority of us agree on keeping assault-style weapons out of the marketplace and high-capacity magazines out of anyone's hands, the majority of us agree on this, why haven't these measures come to fruition? It's sinat chinam. It's hatred. We, as the American people, have been so busy shouting at each other and yelling at each other and hating each other that we cannot band together on the things that we agree on. We can't say, hey, you know, you and I, we disagree on some stuff, but this thing we both agree on, let's make it happen. And we can't say that because we're not able to say, hey, you know what, you think this way on an issue and I think that way on an issue. And honestly, I really don't agree with you, but you know what? Let's hear each other out because, like, you know, we're both Americans. We want the best. And we can't say that because we're too busy hating each other. Because everyone's got a side, and that's their side, and it's not your side, and God forbid you should ever listen to someone who's a side that's not yours, because listening is tacit condoning what? I'm not saying we all have to agree on everything. We're not going to. We don't have to. What I'm saying is that we have to stop hating one another so hard we can't move forward on the things we actually agree on. Things that save literal lives. I'm saying that when we hate each other, we're shouting and shouting at each other and shouting past each other, and then we're ignoring each other. People are literally dying, being shot to death at Walmart and at school and at shul. And we just keep hearing shouting and shouting and hating, and it just keeps going. Hatred, not the Romans, according to the rabbis, is what brought about the end of Jewish civilization as we knew it about 2,000 years ago, and hatred is what threatens our existence today. I'm not even talking about guns right now because people have been slaughtering each other for longer than guns have existed. We as a people should know that. We as a society will move forward when we stop hating each other. I'm going to leave you on an optimistic note because it feels bad to me to do it any other way. But this is a weird optimistic note because it's going to make us all feel a little bit bad. Sorry. The downside. If we're looking for fault, if we're truly looking for fault, if we're looking at what's been happening in this country and why, and we're spreading that blame around, a little bit, a tiny little smidge of that lands on me and on you and on you and on all of us. Americans, we have somehow built this society in which hate reigns supreme, and hate has become popular, and hate is catchy, and it's become a great political tool to get what you want. Hate. Now, the upside is if it's a little bit, just a smidge, just a skosh, your fault. That means you can do something about it. It means I can do something about it. And in fact, we have to, because we're the ones who have to fix it. And it means that every time you patiently listen to your neighbor talk, though, that one with the signs in their yard, you have one, I promise. That one who you see those signs and just turns your stomach a little bit, and you don't deride them and you don't dismiss them, you're helping. And every time you think you know what someone's going to say in an argument and you're already mad at them for the thing you think they're going to say and you're already like arguing with them and you're 2 steps ahead in the argument in your mind, but you don't go there and you wait, it means you're helping to make everything better. When your rabbi is going to give a speech that touches on current events and you're not castigating them in your mind before they finish speaking, You're helping make society better, and I really appreciate it. I do. And doesn't it feel better for you to live in that society? I feel better when I'm listened to, and I feel better when I'm heard out, and I feel better when I'm not being judged before I've even opened my mouth. It feels so much better. I promise it does. And not only does it feel better, it makes our country better and safer and more of the place that our founding fathers meant for it to be. I know it's hard to listen to people with whom you vehemently, in your soul level, disagree. I know because it's hard for me too. I have feelings. I watch the news on a channel that I won't tell you. But civil society, it's called civil, and one of the reasons it's called civil is because the people in it have to act in a civil manner. Not identical. We don't all have to be the same. Probably shouldn't all be the same. But we need to be civil. That's what we have to do. That's where improvement starts. That's when our streets become safer. That's when our lives become more fulfilling. It starts when we don't hate each other, we stop shouting at each other, we start being civil. I'm so optimistic, in fact, and this never happens for me. I think we should pat ourselves on the back in advance. I think we should do it now. For all the times that we know we're going to bite our tongues, for all the times that we know we're going to keep our ears open, and we're going to banish hatred from our hearts and despair from our lives. I know I can do it. I know you can do it. I know we can do it. And I know that we don't have a choice. Shabbat Shalom.